You'll give me your objections, I'll answer your objections and like break them down, and so that eventually you will have no more objections at the end of the day. There'll be no more excuse for you not to buy my product. It's literally sales in print. 20% of your actions make up 80% of your outcomes. Where's your aim? Where are you going? Like, who are you serving? Center everything around that, ignore everything else. Invest in yourself, invest in your education, because if you don't, then you're just gonna be where you are. Like, no one's gonna do it for you. And it's a harsh reality at the beginning, but once you get your head around how to do it and how to actually predictably make money, once you figure that out, you're like, it's like this light bulb, like this whole world opens, and you're like, that's how the world works.
I actually had a Spanish-speaking podcast for over 2 years or something. So I did close to 100 episodes of it.
Wow. Okay.
I just had to stop because it's difficult to get interesting Spanish-speaking guests while living here in Australia. And eventually I started an English podcast with one of my best mates. But it's hard because he has a 9 to 5, so eventually we wanted to get guests on board. But it's difficult because now you have to handle his schedule with my schedule, which it's the most flexible one because I work for myself, but then also the guest schedule, so it's quite difficult. And yeah, eventually we just stopped. But I miss podcasting so much, and that's why we're here, because this is a new project. I'm going to be honest with you. There's still not even a name for the podcast.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, so there's nothing. And like I said to you when you first got in, this is not even like the final look for the set or anything.
It's the box.
I'm literally just doing, and I want this to be some sort of inspiration for creative entrepreneurs and people out there that you just need to get started. You just need to do and eliminate any friction that you have between you and the thing that you want to be doing. Because I feel like I have almost a mission now that I have to share the stories and the knowledge of the cool people I've had the fortune to meet in the past years. And first it was like, oh, my English is not that good, all this stuff. Like I was scared to just making excuses to do it. Now to me, it's more like these days, like just do it, like get started and then you make adjustments along the way. So basically, you are the first guest, and there's not even a name for the podcast so far.
The soapbox.
Yeah. But yeah, so I don't want to even... There's a few options, that I have, and I'm still going through them to see what's going to be the final name. But yeah, let this be an example for you, whoever you are, you're watching right now, to just get started, and you figure everything out along the way with feedback as well. You need feedback in order to improve. So this is what we're doing today. And enough about this. We are very fortunate, ladies and gentlemen. Let me tell you, today we have our first guest for the podcast with no name. And he's someone that I respect a lot, that he's a great friend as well. We met through jiu-jitsu, funny enough. We can talk a little bit about that, but basically he's leaving us. He's leaving Australia. He's moving to Indonesia very soon, and I couldn't let this man leave before sitting down and having a conversation with us, because I think he could provide a lot of value to any business owner, creative entrepreneurs out there that will be fortunate enough to come across this episode. So yeah, basically I had to tell him, make some time for us, and here he is. I'm very excited to have this conversation with you. He is a digital marketing expert. So he's about to break down everything for us about marketing. Marketing 101 could be the name of this episode. Please give a warm welcome to Josiah Roche.
Yeah, that's a lot to live up to. Crap. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, so Josiah, before we dive into marketing and everything you do, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? How have you got to where you are right now?
In terms of like marketing, it's hard where to start, but in terms of what's relative, I started my career as a journalist and worked for the Australia Times for 2 years. And then during that, I like always had side hustles. For like the last several years, I've always had a side hustle. And, many didn't turn out. Many of them didn't turn out. The most consistent one, I had another like an online publication for 4 years while I was working with the Australia Times. As you can imagine, that's a direct fit, you know. And then I got into marketing about 6 years later, and then I've been doing marketing for about 7 years now, and I fell in love. Holy crap. Like, it was love at first sight where like I read the old books from like Claude Hopkins and Robert Collier and stuff, and I was just like obsessed from then. And I was like, I want to learn everything about marketing. And usually, you know, when you pick up a new idea, it shakes off. It shakes off within a couple of months. Like, it kind of like dies off. But this never died off. Like, a year later, 2 years later, still the same obsession. 3, 4 years later, same obsession. And so, yeah, so I've been a digital marketing consultant for small to medium-sized businesses for 2 years running my own firm, but before that, I ran a digital marketing agency with another partner, but I sold that in 2021. And so since 2021, I've been consulting for myself, and unexpectedly, it grew really rapidly, and it's been doubling every year, which thank God. And yeah, so here I am today, and sharing hopefully some wisdom, some bites to take home, and yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. When you First, what do you love about marketing? What got you so deep into it? Why do you think it made you fall in love with it?
At first, like, it's changed, right? At first, it was like, oh, I love to see what makes people tick and what makes people buy. And then over time, you know, it's moved into a more sustainable kind of mindset of psychology never changes. It's never changed for the last 100 years or 1,000 years. Like, it's something that you will always take with you. No, even if you do a degree in it 10 years ago, it's still going to stay with you. And it's the information you learned back then is still just as useful, as long as obviously you're learning a lot of practical knowledge as well, and translating that into marketing. And so what I loved about it is you could learn any channel, doesn't matter if it's Facebook, Google, SEO, psychology remains the same. And once you learn the basics, you just evolve and use your common sense alongside of your knowledge of tactics and things like that support an overall strategy. So, yeah, I hope that was a pretty good answer. But yeah, I really, it was more so like reading from the authors of the direct response authors that I read that were selling like direct response or direct mail to people, and then split testing like what works and what words made an impact, what increased sales, just like one little word change, or adding a specific image on a letter, and that like improved conversion rates by 20x. And so reading about that, I was like, holy shit, like this is just basic stuff. And learning from my learnings in journalism, you know, it's about, you know, the ABCs of journalism: accuracy, brevity, and clarity. And you're looking at that, but you're also looking at direct response over here, and you're like, oh, well, if we just change this headline a little bit, you know, we could increase our readership, we could increase our open rates. Like if you're talking about email marketing, it's your click-through rates, and then you can subsequently improve your conversion rates. And so everything kind of complements each other. Everything you do in life, even in sales, marketing, learning marketing helps with sales. So I just love that it literally is every part. It affects every part of your life, right? If you're at a wedding or a party with someone, you use what you know about psychology and get to know them, and you know, obviously not for bad, but not that there's many ways, but yeah, that's why I kind of like fell in love with marketing, because it's so deep. You know, there's so much to learn, and the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know. And yeah, I'm a big believer on that.
For someone that has never done marketing or anything like that, what's marketing, first of all? Break it down for us. Yeah,
so marketing, if you think of sales and marketing, sales is like you and me, we're having a conversation. I've got some sort of product or service, and you're like in market for it. You're kind of like interested. You approach me about it. And I'm kind of like telling you the benefits, telling you, you know, how you've told me about your current problem, and I'm kind of relating to you, building that rapport, as we know in sales. And so marketing is just that, but in print or in text. You're literally doing the same thing as what we're doing in a sale. You'll give me your objections, I'll answer your objections and like break them down, and so that eventually you will have no more objections at the end of the day. There'll be no more excuse for you not to buy my product. Like it's just a common sense thing, but like marketing is that. It's literally sales in print. It's sales not one-to-one, but one-to-many. And so that's why it's so powerful. And you can do one-to-one, obviously, email marketing if you're reaching out, doing a sniper strategy, reaching out to someone on LinkedIn and, you've read some of their articles and you're trying to build rapport that way. Yeah, it's just online sales. It's just selling digitally. In my experience, it's digitally, but you can do it obviously through direct mail and physically and all that sort of stuff. You've got collateral in your shop, in your little cafe with certain discounts or coupons or certain events that you've got on at the moment. So yeah, it's pretty fascinating when you think of breaking it down that way. It's just literally sales.
That's a great breakdown of what's marketing, because it's literally just making me think a lot, even on my own website, that I know it needs to be updated and all these things. But now hearing that, it makes it even easier for me to know what are some of the things that I need to fix, So what do you think are like the most common mistakes you spot on websites or of entrepreneurs, small business owners? What are the most common mistakes you normally find?
Like the single most common mistake, like literally every single client that comes to me, they don't have their persona sorted out. And what that means is basically they don't understand who their audience is properly, or they haven't really documented it properly. So you could be in business for like 5 years and you've got a rough idea on the kind of clients you've got. And most people say, all of them come from word of mouth. And so that's why they're coming to you for marketing, so that they can create more predictability in the business. But when it comes to the number one mistake, it is that they haven't really documented, well, who is the 80% of people that we're really selling to here? And that doesn't necessarily mean their age, their gender, their jobs, their business size, their medium size, or they're a 9-figure business, or they're enterprise and they're nuts, like they're the next Google that you're serving. Those don't matter in the scheme of things, because when you really think about it, the main things you need to know in order to sell someone, just in a sales conversation, is what are their objections, what are their pain points, what are their desires, what do they want, right? And then once you figure that out, you just do the inverse of what you've learned. The inverse being you learn their objections, and so you can answer them on your webpage. You can break them down. Hey, there's certain objections around pricing. Well, you can say, oh, well, we have pricing plans to help with that. Like, you're literally doing the inverse. They're giving you the answers. And a lot of the time, personas are half-educated guess and judgmental experience. And so if you come from a statistical background, they say, there's judgmental analysis where you approach an expert and they kind of tell you what their experience is and based on, a sample size or a cohort. And so basically you as the business owner, you would use your knowledge. Okay, well, I get 5 clients a week and most of them come in with this same problem. This is the recurring theme, or this is the recurring kind of desires that they want out of my product for this particular service that I'm offering. And these are their objections. And so I'll put these down on paper and I'll have a real hard think about, well, how is it that I serve them? How is it that I fix these problems? And you kind of it helps with your marketing, as you can imagine. It helps with your sales, the whole business, for everyone. Like, if you create this persona, sit down for 30 minutes, an hour, create this persona, then, that helps everyone. Front desk, it helps sales, it helps marketing, it helps your entire team understand, oh, okay, this is who we're serving, right? And that's the main thing. A lot of business owners, they come in, they think that they need a website, or they think they need social media, but they really haven't understood their audience yet. So they're throwing tactics at the wall to see what sticks, instead of looking at the holistic strategy and then thinking about, well, who is it we're targeting? And look at the 80-20 rule, and then think about...
What's the 80-20 rule?
Pareto's 80-20 rule. So it's 20% of your actions make up 80% of your outcomes. And so with that, you use the 80-20 rule with your marketing as well. You think, well, I'm not going to waste my time on... It's like SEO, right? You're not wasting your time on certain keywords because they're not fruitful. They're not worth your time. If you chase one particular keyword, you might have to spend $20,000 just to get on the top 3 search results. Whereas another keyword, it might be literally you don't have to spend any money on backlinks and you can create the page because the opportunity's there. And so you're thinking Pareto's rule there. You're thinking 80-20. Where can I find some quick wins that are going to produce results if I'm worried about short term? But long term, obviously you want to have a holistic strategy. Where's your aim? Where are you going? Like, who are you serving? And then center everything around that, ignore everything else. Because obviously, like, as you know, running a business, especially when you start out, you like the shiny things. We all do. We like new things. We like, a customer came in for a certain add-on and we're like, oh, we should make that a main service now because they came in for the add-on. We should serve this. And it's just like, you get so distracted.
So
everyone, like I've done a lot, right? I've been there, and that's why I can say from experience, we kind of like all do this where we get distracted by those shiny things.
Yeah.
And so,
because you start thinking as well, like, oh, this will make X amount of extra money on top of it and all this stuff. So you're like, yeah, we can do that. So you start like coming out of your specialty as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's very interesting because like you don't sit down to think about it, but it has happened to me as well. Many times where I've had a client that maybe comes, for videos, but then eventually they're like, oh, can you also take charge of our social media accounts and that stuff? And you're like, well,
I could make money.
Yeah, I could make some extra money and whatever. And then you kind of just go through that like that because they're paying you already a bunch of money, and you're like, oh, well, if you let me take charge of your social media accounts, it would only cost you X. But then when you start doing it, you're like, fuck me, why did I do this? This is boring. First of all, it's not what I like doing. It's not my specialty, so it takes me longer for me to do it that it will take to someone that specializes on this. It takes away of the fun too, and then you're not guaranteeing the best results for the client too. So I completely moved away from that. If it's something that is my business doesn't specialize on, or I'm not confident at maybe consulting or teaching or advising or stuff, I don't touch it. I'm just like, I don't care how much money it's gonna make, unless I have someone that I trust that I can, either hire to do the job for us kind of thing. And that's how you start thinking bigger as a business, because then if you have the budget, depending on the client and the project itself, you can hire the best talent, So if I know that talent that will deliver amazing results and I can be almost the middleman for that to happen kind of thing, then you're like, yeah, we can do that for you. You start making things happening. But even then, like, you're taking time away. If you're a one-man band, you're taking a lot of your time away to figure that out. So you better have the right budget for it. So yeah, that's very interesting that you mentioned that.
And that brings up another point, like the same as services, when they come in for these services and you feel like you've got to add that on because it's in your wheelhouse, you're intelligent enough to do that particular job, but it's not what you love, it's not what you got into and stuff, and that's why it's not sustainable, and eventually you learn to drop it off. But also pricing, someone comes in early on especially, and they're like, they talk down your budget or they talk down your services. Can we just like not include that? Or can we just like, they try to negotiate and it's just like, this isn't freaking negotiable. Like, this is my service. And it's interesting. We also give in early on. We give in. We're like, oh, I kind of really need the money. And it's feast or famine, and you kind of like need the money straight away. So you give in and you take on clients who are probably very, very high maintenance and they're not worth the pennies, but you need to pay your bills. And we all go through that. And but long term, obviously you learn that's not sustainable. You're not going to be building a business by doing that. And you've got to realize that just because you're saying no to this person doesn't mean that there's another one around the corner. There's been so many times where, you get this little thought in the back of your head that you turn down this client, and early on, especially, you turn down this client and you're like, oh, I lost money. Like I could have made $5,000 or $10,000 out of that. And then a few days later, you get hit up with another job and you're like, oh, how is that? Like, is the universe? What is this? Yeah.
Man, it definitely works like that. And that's a great point. Talking pricing, because I think this is one of the biggest areas where we fail as creatives, entrepreneurs, because coming from the creative side of things, we love so much what we do, right? Like whether it's videos, whether it's marketing, whether it's photography, whether it's design, we love so much what we do that it's hard to like separate from the artist, the creator, the filmmaker, the photographer, to go to the business owner, right? It took a long time for me to understand, like, regardless of how much I love my passion, which is creating videos and helping people translate their ideas, their vibes. That's the purpose of Vibes Creating, helping, supporting businesses and individuals in translating their unique vibe into extraordinary films. If I want to do that, I need to be profitable. Like, unfortunately, that's the hard truth. You need to be profitable, because eventually, if not, you're going to burn out. You're not going to have a business in a year or 2 years' time. Eventually, it will eat you, because you will realize, like, shit, I'm not making enough money. And then you will probably have to drop your passion to go do something else, because your passion can't sustain your life.
It's a starving artist.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's the same.
Man, exactly. That's one day I sat down, and by that, that was a couple years ago, where I've been focusing so much on the skills, and I completely neglected the business side of things.
Yeah.
And I remember being like, even looking at the market and stuff, and understanding that, my skills are above like the average and all these things. And I'm not making enough money compared to Johnny from the corner that, he's claiming to be the best videographer or filmmaker in the planet. Yeah. And, he's making so much money. And I'm like, your videos are trash. Why are you making more money than me? So, and you start coming back to that, and then reflecting on, what do you need to change, in order to be profitable, in order for your business to grow, in order to remain doing what you love. So you have to learn business, you have to learn sales, you have to learn how to negotiate as well. Because, like I said, if you don't learn that, you should stay as a creative, and that's fine too. You should stay as the artist, as the filmmaker, as the photographer, and just work for someone else.
Work for someone else.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But for someone like me, and for someone like you, I know by now as well, that's not an option. To me, it was always like, I need to make this work. And so far, things are working out, but because, I had to put the fire on me, like, how am I need to solve this problem. Why am I not making enough money? Why am I not reaching the right clients? What am I missing? What's happening? Because it's not the skills. I can see around me, like in the market and all the stuff, that my skills are, you might not be the best of the best, but you're way above average. So you should be making a living. If people below you that have less, their skills are lower than yours, are making more money. You should be making more money than them. You should be more profitable. So that's when you start learning that it's not just skills. That's like the bare minimum. Like, it's everything else. It's the client experience. It's the shaking the right hands, like networking. That has been game-changing for me in the past year. So I want to hear from you, like, because you worked for someone for a while, right? Like, doing marketing for them years ago, did you?
Yeah, no. So I went into journalism. I ran my own publication for 4 years. And then after that, I went into a digital marketing business with a business partner. And we ran that for 2 years. So I literally went into business. And granted, it wasn't that profitable. It wasn't that profitable, especially for the 2 years. It was a lot of learning, a lot of mistakes. It's only in the last 2 years that, like, I've kind of like streamlined my own master's course by starting my own business and learning even more than what I did in that social media digital marketing agency. But yeah, I in contrast, like, I have worked for other people at the start of my business now, consulting, like working in-house in their teams, working across different teams. Like, I remember I was fortunate enough to work for an enterprise in the fintech space in 6 months after consulting, but I was working for someone else as an employee in-house, but I was obviously learning on their dime. So that's the most underrated thing. Alex Hormozy says it all the time.
Oh, I love Alex
always,
Hormozy,
always. That's so underrated, and a lot of people just want to skip to the end. They just want to skip to the last section where they're like, oh yeah, I'm going to charge $50 an hour straight away. It's like, dude, you don't even know what you're doing to charge $50 an hour. Like most people with your skill set are charging 10 US an hour. And so, yeah, I feel like some of us at least get greedy really fast, and we don't. We're not realistic with ourselves. We see the instant gratification and how the success other people have, like that with their Ferraris and with their, we went from $1 million in 3 years or in a year or something like that with some e-com store that they built. And so, yeah, good on them. If they did that, amazing, good, hats off to them. But that's not real life. Like when they say build a business, you are building a business. Think of it as a brick at a time, and you're spending every day and you're putting one brick on the pavement, and not the pavement, but you know what I mean? Like you're building a house with a brick at a time, and kind of that's how I see business now. I didn't see business like that at the start though. I was too ambitious for myself. I was too impatient. And you just got to really think about it that way. And I think when people think about marketing and learning business, they get intimidated. They're like, oh, this really complex subject. I don't have time. I'd just rather learn my job, learn my craft, and get perfect at it. Whereas if you learn just a few basics of business, it's really simple. It's really simple. And if anyone tells you there's this silver bullet or this hack or this, a quick way of learning, like they're wrong. Like there's no such thing as a silver bullet in life. Otherwise, everyone would be billionaires. Like it's really that simple. So it's learning about people, sales, and not thinking that you have to read a script. And I'm like, oh, so tell me, you're looking for a $5,000 car loan, is that right? Like it's just. I feel like a lot of people get really stressed at the beginning because there's so much to learn and it's overwhelming. And it's really actually simple once you get head around it. Like it's like anything in life. Once you actually got your head around it, like driving a car, you're like, well, actually, that was actually quite simple. But when I first started out, it was so complex. Like I was driving in the wrong lane. I was driving through a red light. I was like, like you're looking at it that way. But I feel like it's a lot simpler than people think.
Yeah, well, what do you think for someone that has been too occupied with the tools, too focused on getting like better at whatever they do? Let's say it's a videographer that is too focused on making better videos, but has neglected completely the side of business. And he's starving at the moment. He's not making enough money. What would you tell him to do in order to start changing things for him and actually start building a business?
Well, I think if you look at what we mentioned before, you don't have to be the best in the game to be successful. You just have to be better than someone else. And that person who's obsessed and their perfection is enemy. I used to be a big perfectionist. And what I realized over time is that is your worst enemy. You just need to get the MVP, the minimal viable product, up and running. And this goes for everything. It goes for your website, goes for your blog, goes for your portfolio, your LinkedIn, reaching out to people. It's volume. It's literally you're learning over time through volume, as Alex Hormozy says. You're like calling. Oh, I suck at sales. I suck at calling. Do more of them. You'll get better. Like literally stop putting these high expectations that you're going to be instantly good at this thing when you just start out. And that's what a lot of people think that they can do, that they think that they're going to be instantly good at this thing. It's like go snowboarding for the first time. You're going to fall on your ass so many times, right? Everyone does. Like no one's born and they're like, I got a clean, white, shiny ass right here. Like I didn't even touch the ground. Yeah. Like, but that's the thing. I feel like stop like getting so. As long as you can produce a video, produce something that people are actually paying for, sell it. Try to sell it. Try to ask someone, would you pay for this? Would you pay for like and that's volume as well. Finding out the exact offer of what's going to work takes time. You're not going to create a killer offer straight away. That takes time. If you look at Russell Brunson or any value-based marketers like Chris Do, he's more in sales, Chris Do.
Side note,
yeah,
I'm going to his workshop next week.
Nice. Yeah, he's in Melbourne, Sydney.
Brisbane.
Oh, he's in Brisbane.
He's coming next
What
week.
day?
The day you're leaving.
Oh,
Can you believe it? I was about to text you because I'm going with my mate that is also an entrepreneur. Man, and yeah, like I was like, Josiah will love this because I know you know him, and then I checked the calendar. Oh, that's the day they leave.
Yeah. Oh, that sucks.
How crazy.
That's okay. That's okay. Like I learn a lot of his videos anyway. You get kind of similar value.
Yeah.
But Yeah, that they teach you as well. Like you're literally testing and building stuff. Never like don't think that you're gonna go out the gates winning all the time. Like just be prepared to fail. That's why the cliche, oh, fail as many times as you can. We've all heard it so many times. It's true to the instance that you really have to set your own expectations within yourself to realize that, hey, I might not make any money. I made no money in one of my businesses for 2 years. $0. I actually I spent thousands of hours learning like in marketing, and I made no money at all. And so you got to be prepared for that. You know, you like it won't always be the case. Like I've seen so many cases where people have just started a fresh business. This is the first time they've ran a business, and they've made $500,000 in the first 6 months. I'm like, holy shit! Like, how does this happen? This person knows like way less than me. How are they making money? And I'm sure you've come across certain scenarios where there's a lot more people who are like how I look at it, a lot stupider than you are, right? But they're like 20x richer than you. Like they're making so much money. They're retired at like 25. But you never obviously compare. It's the whole comparative thing. We compare ourselves to these people on Instagram, and you just got to really set yourself expectations that it's okay. It's okay not to make money. Try to like lower that. I know that you got bills to pay. We've all got bills to pay. Just do what you need to do to get the bills to pay, but come in with the expectation that you're not going to be rich in a month. You know, just try to love the process. Gary Vee says this all the time, and I think it is cliche to a degree, but you've got to love the work. Alex Hormozy says love the hard work, and it's true. Like you've got to pick something that you love doing, find a realistic way of doing it. Like for example, when I first started with the Australia Times, I loved video games, and I knew that I would never become a developer. That was not realistic. I sucked at code. And the next best thing, I loved English. I loved journalism, as you know. And so I started my own publication while I was working with the Australia Times. And I went into the gaming industry from there because I loved it. It was a passion. But the only realistic way of getting into that industry was to pick a profession that I could actually enter into that could make money, which was a journalist at the time, because I was good with words. And that's how I could enter into that industry. So you've got to pivot. I've been following Adam Enfroy, lately, and he's good with his messaging with pivoting. You've got to learn to pivot in as many areas as possible, and don't always get stuck on something. You know, like that's a human flaw we have when we've spent so much time on something. It's hard to let it go. It's like relationships. You've been in a relationship for 10 years. It's very hard to let it go, even though you know it's toxic. And it's like not good for your life. And so we have that trait, and it's kind of like learning to let go and learning to pivot when you need to. But I guess the hardest thing is identifying when you actually do need to. So to answer your question, it's really drop the tools, try to sell something. The founder of AppSumo, he does this all the time. He says that like most experienced investors and business owners, they don't even build the product anymore to begin with. They try to sell something that doesn't even exist first to see if it's got market validation. And so they actually like come up with this product. Hey, they call up a few people, and they're not all friends, by the way. They call up people who've got money or like just acquaintances here and there. Hey, would you kind of like pay for this service? And try to get actual money in the bank. Try to actually see if it's got market validation. Because if it's got no validation, you're going off with an idea or a dream that's kind of there's no search volume behind it. The keywords or the niche is way too niche, and no one even knows about this product. It's early on the bell curve. It's not even mainstream yet. No one knows about it, and so it's only early adopters who know about it. So it's really setting those expectations with yourself. Try to sell the product first. Drop the tools. You're good enough. Like, you know what you're doing. You're good enough. Sell something. A lot of people are happy with very basic videos, by the way. They're willing to pay it. If you went on Fiverr, I'm not suggesting go on Fiverr, worst platform in terms of listing your own services. But I recommend try to sell the service first. And it's hard, but it's volume. Like, reach out to people. Quality. Don't create this blank email template. Hey, name, I saw that you're blah, blah, blah. Can you, like, there's nothing personal about that. And people are smart. They read straight through your bullshit. And then, it doesn't get the cut through that you want, right? So take your time. Learn about the person. I know that the first few kind of emails that you get, you won't get any responses, and that's fine. That's normal. That's what follow-up is for. That's what all this stuff. Follow-up is very important. But yeah, that's what I would suggest. Like it's as simple as that. It's because we all get on the tools and then we don't end up starting sales at all because we're like, oh, I got to have sales perfect. I've got to know exactly what I've got to say. I've got to have this script. I've got to know which platforms to sell. I've got to know which ad platforms to go on. And you think that you got to get everything perfect, and that's when we come back full circle to perfection is your enemy. And you've just got to move past that. Minimal viable product. Just get something out there and build it one brick at a time.
Yeah, you completely nailed it as well with what you were saying before, that you gotta be prepared to fail. You gotta be prepared to go to that place where you look at your bank account and you might have like $50.
Yeah.
I have a screenshot of one of the few times, because this has happened maybe, I think off the top of my head, maybe 3 times where I was so low in money that I had no money for rent for next week. Like I literally look at my bank account.
Been there. Yeah.
$50, 54 something, I think it was. I have the screenshot on my phone. And no idea where the next job was coming from.
And no support from
no
family.
Support, because
Yeah.
my family is from Venezuela. They're not making enough money to support me here, all this stuff. No one that I would, my pride wouldn't let me go to someone and be like, can I borrow, $1,000 or whatever? Like, I had no idea, but I had to make it work, and I made it. Like, it's almost like the universe starts playing with you if you stay long enough. If you stay long enough in a game, but not wishing, not just dreaming, but doing. It's not like I was just expecting something to fall on my lap. Like I went to work. I went to hunt. I was like, what can I do? What can I, I'll start putting stories that I'm on Instagram that I'm working. I will start, I will continue my YouTube channel. I will reach out to someone. I will do, and then eventually, like maybe the day before paying rent and all this stuff, something will happen. Man, it was crazy. And it has happened every single time. I think there's no way out. I'm about to give up. Like my brain is already telling me like, dude, it's not worth it. Let's just go for a job. Let's just go back to hospitality and all this stuff. Like just go work for someone. At this stage, someone will hire you to do videos, or even, like offer that getting a job is not that hard. Like, honestly, working for someone is not really that hard. If you're a nice person, if you're smiling, if you get the job done, whatever they need, you get it done. Even if you don't have the skills, but you show that you're willing to learn and that you will find a way to get things done, you will get hired. It took me not very long to understand that it's not hard. It's actually hard to find people like that, and it's not hard to be those people.
Yeah.
It's really not that hard to get hired. Hard is going and start everything by yourself. Like being an entrepreneur has been the hardest thing I've done in my life, other than, being an immigrant, on the other side of the world. So if you want a job, if you want to not be an entrepreneur, that's the easy path. Like honestly, almost anyone can do it.
I can get a job practically anywhere, just work for one person, get one salary, be limited obviously financially.
Yeah. You will have a ceiling.
Yeah. That ceiling's so low. Like you're not even breaking the 150k mark, 100k mark, and really when you're making 150k a year, you start to realize, ooh, life is suddenly better. I can afford these restaurants. I can afford to, have a nice car. I can afford to, not that I don't really care about cars, by the way. But like you can afford these stuff that you would at the beginning of your life when you grew up with people who were in poverty and that mindset, and they're like, oh, it's too expensive, or it's too. They always like have these connotations around money, which are negative, especially they're at restaurants and like, oh, this is way too expensive. And you start to realize that, that's all that actually affects you long term, how you think about money and your possibilities. You don't realize that these guys over here making $30 million a day, and you're over here making what? $200, $150 a day, if that, in your normal job, and it's a whole different life. You struggle paycheck to paycheck. Most of this country lives paycheck to paycheck, but it's actually so it's an investment in yourself to be an entrepreneur or to start a business that you actually love and learn about it. invest in yourself, invest in your education. Because if you don't, then you're just going to be where you are. Like, no one's going to do it for you. And it's a harsh reality at the beginning, but once you get your head around how to do it and how to actually predictably make money, which is a hard thing to get your head around. You do need to learn marketing and sales, but once you figure that out, you're like, it's like this light bulb, like this whole world opens, and you're like, that's how the world works. That's interesting, you know?
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that, you know, I feel like the whole grind and all that sort of stuff, it's unhealthy to a degree, but you do need to at least put the hours in, especially at the beginning. Do it focused though, because we can all get distracted by, okay, I've got to learn social media marketing. I've got to learn this now. I've got to learn this now. And we all do it, but do something that you like, and you will pivot. You will pivot into, I started in social media. I learned that I didn't like social media. Like, I'm certified in Facebook. I ran Facebook ads for people. I did not like it. I found Google. I fell in love. Like, I was like, this is what I've been looking for. I hate interruption marketing. I hate interrupting people. I'd rather help them when they're searching for my services most. Like, and that's what I love about like what I'm doing in marketing versus Facebook and Instagram and influencer marketing and all that sort of stuff, because I don't delve into those. And what people don't realize is when you're hiring a consultant like me, we don't specialize in everything. We know a bit about everything, like a generalist, but for me, I specialize in SEO, CRO, and Google Ads. So CRO being conversion rate optimization for like websites. SEO, everyone kind of knows what that is, search engine optimization. And then Google Ads, just Google Ads, you know, and that's all I specialize in now. And there's so much money to be made. Like, holy crap, there's so much money to be made. And a lot of us also get like caught up on, oh, I can't have that competitor over there, can't have that client, or, you know, they're afraid to mention competitors, and they're afraid to share with others and have referral sources. And really, the market's bigger than you. You can't even, like me, myself, I couldn't handle more than 10 clients a week. Like, I could not. Like, I can't physically do that at the moment, like where the growth is. So we get caught up in jealousy. I had a very jealous business partner when I was beginning, and just really caught up on what competitors are doing and what, like, that's the worst use of your time, that you're thinking about competitors.
Yeah.
And I'm sure all of us have done it at the beginning, but it's really when you start to become more a veteran in business and you start to learn a bit more on how business works and that, you start to partner with competitors and be like, I've referred so many clients to competitors, no sweat. Easy. I think this is going to help this client the most. This is way too big for me. I've seen $1 million business get sold, and I've seen $1 million website get built. And I can't build $1 million website. What does that even look like? You know, it's a huge listing platform. And so, you know, you refer that off to other people who can handle that, because you're only going to do the client a disservice. You're not going to be able to fulfill their expectations. They're going to give you a bad review. And you're not going to be very well known in the marketplace. And you'll probably, like, when you get a bad review, most of us are like, oh, crap, I've got to get rid of that, you know. But it's kind of like one of those things. Don't be jealous about your competitors. And, yeah, I don't even know how I got into that tangent, but...
Yeah, it's a good tangent, though, because I think that's a very common theme, like being, like... so greedy with your jobs, with your clients and stuff, and you know, like even your processes and things like that, thinking like,
I can't let the competitor have that.
I can't let him know how to do it and all this stuff. Like, man, it doesn't matter. We're in a day and age that everything is online. You know, like you can learn virtually anything online. So it really, the difference is you. And nobody can be you, because you're unique. So that, and goes back to as well, like improving yourself, upskill yourself, like learn. That's why I'm doing the workshop with Christo.
Yeah.
You know, I'm hoping that I will learn something that will make me a little bit more wiser, a little bit, give me a little edge above my competition. You know, all this stuff that. And maybe something that will fast track my way to financial freedom, because that's my ultimate goal. So you got to focus on yourself. Like, winners focus on winning, losers focus on winners. You know, so that is so true. Like I don't, these days, I don't care about what other people are doing. You certainly, you can't be ignorant. You know, you can't not keep up with trends. You can't not see what's working for all the businesses, because in some way you can always learn from it and have your twist on it. You know, because in the end, we're all like stealing artists. You know, if you're gonna steal like an artist. You know, bring your own twist to it. Don't just copycat someone, because that's not gonna work. What makes it yours is your own twist into it, your own little spice, your own little flavor. That's what you should be doing, because there is a chance for any idea you have, someone is already doing it. There's a good chance someone else is doing it, but someone is not doing it like you. You know, so that's the biggest thing, was focusing on myself. That has helped with being an entrepreneur, being a business owner, getting out of the poor mindset that you were talking about as well. Because coming from my country, like the mindset is very limiting in terms of what we could achieve and all this stuff. We all have like a ceiling back home of like, we think we're so far from first world countries, or you know, that we don't deserve massive success and all this stuff. So getting out of that poor mindset and being so frugal as well with money and things like, oh, if I spend this money, how long it will take me to get that money back, you know, like thinking in those limiting ways. When you start switching to an abundance mindset, you know, that there's so much money to be made out there, like, and you need to flow with it, you know, like just spend in order to eventually get even more. You know, you need to spend on other businesses and other people. You need to invest. Of course, you need to save some money. You need to have some sort of safety net in case things don't go well, which, if I'm completely honest, I neglected for the longest time as well, because just putting all my money back in the business and hoping eventually it will work out. But and transferring that abundance mindset to things like clients as well. Like what you were just talking of, like, you know, being confident that you can refer a client. The client will respect you more if you come to them. You're like, you know what? I can't offer the service to you, but I know someone that it's very good at that specific thing, and we'll get it done. In a way, you're like, oh, I'm losing the money or the opportunity to make the money and whatever. And you think like that client will never come back to you. That client will refer you to other people because he trusts you. You instantly earn so much trust out of that conversation, because he's like, well, like, this guy just referred me to someone, but I know now what's his specialty. So if I ever need any like video related work, I'm the first person that's gonna pop up. Or if they hear someone telling like, oh, I desperately need to find someone that makes videos, he's like, you know what? I have the guy. Nelson, you know, he referred me to someone great to do marketing. You know, he's very honest. He's super trustworthy. And man, you never know how it will come back to you. And it might take a little long, but it will. Like it always worked out that way when you start losing that, you know, poor mindset of like, oh, I have to keep my client. I have to not refer. You have to keep it flowing. You have to think on abundance mindset. That has been game changing. Talking a little bit about those hard times that you had, because we all have been there, right? In the time where you don't know where you're gonna get clients, you don't know how to make it work, you know, you don't even know how to charge, all this stuff. Going back to those difficult times in your own journey. And that's the other thing, because the journey for everyone is different. That's why you also need to be prepared, you know, to things not working out the way you expect them to work for a while. Because for some people, they might become millionaires in 6 months, like you were saying, or, you know, in a year. But sometimes it might take 10 years. Sometimes it might take even more. That's why you need to be prepared for it. And ideally, love what you do, or fall in love with the process of it, you know, fall in love with the hard work.
That's what matters. Like otherwise you'll die early because you set these unrealistic expectations, and you get stressed out, and you start to realize at the end of life that actually all of that didn't matter. You know, the things that mattered, I neglected my spouse, I neglected my family, like, and it's kind of one of those things. But yeah, go on. What's your question?
So how did you get out of those difficult times? Like, how do you find because I think a lot of people when they hit the wall, and you will eventually, as an entrepreneur, you will hit that wall. You will come to the deep, as Seth Godin talks about it. And a lot of people quit before it, like finding what's their true potential or finding the solution for the obstacles, the problems that they're currently having. What was your mindset? How do you overcome those moments? Because it's not very easy. Like, we talk about it right now and we can laugh like, oh, I have $50 in my bank account or whatever. And, you know, I didn't know how to pay rent.
We weren't laughing then.
but we were not laughing there.
Yeah.
I was crying, man. Some days I remember looking back, just looking at the ceiling, crying.
Like, what am I going to do?
Like, what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah.
Am I going to do? You know, like, so what got you out of those circumstances?
Well, obviously, the right place, right time, all that kind of stuff. But what I started to realize is I hate the mentality where people say, just quit your job and do what you love. It's so unrealistic. So in those instances, like, I went back to a normal job, right? I tried to find anything. I applied for everything. Like, every day I applied for like 40 jobs. I did get a job, and I just set myself realistic expectations that, hey, it's okay to be in a job. I know my goal and I know where I'm going to go. And it's okay to go back. Like, you might have made up enough money and do what you love, and then that might tank and you might not get to where you be. It's okay to go back. You're not starting from scratch. You've learned so much and you're going back to a normal job. And in those times, I was fortunate. Like, it was one of those times where, you know, you're so stressed out that you could have made money on that client and you don't know when your next paycheck's going to be. You don't even know how you're going to pay rent. You know, sometimes some of us come from prideful mindsets where we don't even ask family for money. We're too prideful. We're like, no, I can't lower myself to that level. I'm not going to take their money. I'm going to figure this out. I was fortunate enough, like, at the very end, like, I barely had $2 in my bank account as well, and I didn't know how I was going to pay rent. Something just popped up. I was just constantly grinding. I think something happened where I made sure I was looking for those opportunities, applying for jobs all the time. And I think one of my old acquaintances reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to do a bit of work. And that work turned into at least a few paychecks for rent to pay my bills. And that turned into something else as well, because I thought, when I get that job, I'm going to do the best job possible. I'm going to over-deliver. I'm going to give the best thing so that they're going to either refer me, they're going to either keep me on, or that's going to at least add to my portfolio so I can use that as a collateral to try to entice other people to hire me. And yeah, so getting out of those things, I think it's a matter of being okay to go back to the drawing board, being okay to go and apply for, like, no jobs below you. I think even if you want to work for Uber or be a taxi driver, do that for a while. You know, it's a means to an end. You know, you're not going to do it for the rest of your life. You're a go-getter, and you definitely, you know, you don't settle, right? Like other people. Like, I was on Centrelink for a few years, but when I was on Centrelink, I worked every day. I worked thousands of hours a year, and I wouldn't settle, right? I learned everything about, like, marketing. And whereas other people are content, they're happy, and that's okay if they want to stay in that lane and they want to not really get anywhere in life. Like, I always had this deep knowing that I'm going to be very wealthy, and I didn't know how it was going to happen. I knew it was going to happen. I know it's going to happen. Like, I'm already really wealthy now, but like, what I consider wealth is like several homes and several investment properties and that. And, you know, I'm just starting on that path now, but I always had that positive mindset. Meditate a lot. Make sure you take care of your mental health, because that's really where it is. And getting a job takes the pressure off, because the pressure is the killer. The pressure is what makes you stressed and think that you're going to be homeless. And so it's good to maybe just get into a normal job and take that pressure off, because everyone smells desperation in a sales call. When you've got a desperation on you, people sniff it, people smell it. Like, they not literally smell it, but like they kind of sense that you need the money, and that makes you less attractive. It's like in the dating game, if you really just want to get in bed with that person, they can kind of tell, and like, oh geez, this person's a bit sleazy, like just way too much. And so it's kind of like you've got to play around with that mindset and knowing that don't be desperate. if I'm receiving pressure now and don't know when my next paycheck is going to be, look for a job first, or try to get in sales, but knowing that you might not get a sale because you're being desperate. Otherwise, try to switch off the desperation, knowing in yourself, meditate a lot, knowing that it's going to be okay. Because that's where it is. It's just a mindset game, at the end of the day, especially when you've got no money and you don't know what next week is going to look like for you, and you get in this depressed state, which is very easy. All of us go through it, especially if we think that the world is coming crashing down on us and we don't have any support. It happens. And so it's just a mindset game. It's meditating, thinking everything's going to be okay. Like, you see people in third world countries. I visited Indonesia a couple of months ago. You see people with no electricity, really bad water and sanitation, and they're very happy. Like, they're so smiley, so happy with what they've got is nothing. And Australia here is some of the best facilities for even homeless people. Like, they've got barbecues, they've got really clean water, and they can go to the public facilities and have toilets and things like that, and even showers in some places. In Indonesia and places like that, they don't have that. They don't have anything. They've got to go find a piece of dirt somewhere and then go to the toilet there, Yeah. So it's a perspective too. Like, it's
completely, yeah, completely. And I completely relate to that, because for me, it has been a journey understanding people that deal, for example, with depression and these type of things, because looking at my own perspective and my own experience back home, coming from Venezuela, there's people that, if they're lucky, they eat rice once a day. That's all.
Yeah.
Maybe pasta if it's, the good day. Maybe a little bit of chicken if it's the special day, of the week. They live like maybe 10 of them under the same sink roof and stuff like that. They have to become gang members in order to prove themselves, get money, and survive in the hood. It's in the slums as well. So it has been very difficult for me to understand people in a country like Australia, where they have access to everything. You can even live from the money that the government can give to you. That blew my mind when I found out about Centrelink and all this stuff. That blew my mind. And when I found out about one of my Australian housemates, he was so lazy, always smoking weed and all this stuff. I was like, how does he even paying for that? And then I found out that he was getting money from the government. And I couldn't believe it. I'm like, it blew my mind. Like, what the fuck? Like,
getting paid for nothing.
You get paid to smoke weed, and that's completely okay. Like, and then you come tell me that you're depressed and all this stuff, and I'm like, mate, if I were you, I would be depressed. Like, you're not hitting the gym, you're not getting your stuff done. Like, of course you would. So but that's a completely separate subject. I want to bring it back to marketing for a second. What would you say to someone that has been doing great work and it's getting lots of referrals from word of mouth and things like that? Like, things are going well, but they're not doing any marketing at all. What would you say to someone like that is living purely from referrals and people that have come through word of mouth? Yeah,
well, I get this probably 10 times a week, where people come to me in different sectors like the NDIS or healthcare and stuff, and they say, well, majority of it's word of mouth. Like, I'll get dental clinics coming to me, or I'll get doctors, and they say all of it's word of mouth. And we've been running the business that way for 5 years successfully, and we're kind of like going to give this digital marketing thing a try. And usually what you say is, word of mouth is not predictable. It's the cherry on top. You don't know when someone's going to refer you next. There's no predictability measure for that. You don't know on this spreadsheet over here that we're going to get at least 7 referrals this week. Like, you don't know when the referrals are coming. And so digital marketing is really trying to create predictability in the business, where eventually the word of mouth, depending on the niche, the word of mouth is the cherry on top. Really, it's that simple. And so when you get into digital marketing, really you've got to focus on the numbers, because it's a lot of science as well as art in that sense. And so you're trying to work out how much does it cost per lead, or how much does it cost per sale? How much money had we, like, I use CAC, cost of acquisition, cost to acquire customer. I think that's anyway. That's what it's called. You've got CPA, cost per acquisition, and you've got CPL. I use CPA and CPL interchangeably for my Google Ads clients, and normally a lead isn't a sale, right? For a service business anyway. They're through the door. They haven't spent any money with you yet, but they're probably qualified. Or they're probably not qualified. You've got to find that out. And then your CAC is when the number of, like, it costs you $500 out of the leads. It took you 5 leads before you got a client. Each lead costs $100. So your CAC is $500, right? So you've got to get knowledge of these numbers to understand how your business works and the predictability. And so sometimes when you know those numbers on one channel, then you can sort of play around with another channel, like Facebook. And you could be like, oh, I'm going to run some Facebook ads and see what my CAC and CPLs are over there. And so that once you start to figure this out and play around, collect the data, knowing that you're not going to hit home runs straight away, knowing that you're going to probably invest several $1,000s into your ads without even seeing any results, especially if you're new to it and if you don't have enough money to hire an experienced agency, you're going to have a lot of trial and error at the beginning, but it's all about creating predictability and not relying on word of mouth, which so many businesses say with pride, by the way. They say with pride, like, oh, most of it's word of mouth. And yeah, it's just like, well, if you stepped away from the business and you had other employees, and then you had referrals, you don't know, like, when those referrals are going to come. You don't know who they're going to come from. At the rate they're going to come from, you're going to be in feast or famine sometimes. Like, if something happens catastrophically, like COVID, that affected so many businesses, especially businesses who pridefully said they had mostly word of mouth. A lot of businesses went under in COVID. A lot of digital businesses thrived because they created predictability in the business. And it was just like a certain niche that worked and it wasn't affected by COVID. But yeah. That's why I'd say, like, delve into digital marketing, try to create some predictability with your CPAs, your CPLs, and your CACs. Obviously, a lot of people use CAC and CPA the same, whereas I don't, but it's personal preference, okay? So, yeah, and it's just, finding out predictability.
What would you say to someone, because obviously this costs a fair bit of money. So if someone is not at that stage where they can invest money into their marketing or hire someone like you, for example, or an agency, what would you suggest them to do with the current situation? They are not doing any marketing at all. They don't have budget for it. What advice would you give to them to get started with and to delve into some marketing?
Yeah, it's a good question because a lot of people, they will think, okay, go do marketing. I'll put up a few Instagram posts. I'll put up a few Facebook posts. I'll do that for a couple of weeks. Oh, why aren't I getting any people like buying from me? Why isn't this working? And it's kind of, people think that there's that silver bullet or that shortcut that they can go through. And so when you're first starting out, we go back to that persona that I mentioned at the very beginning. If you don't know that, don't start marketing. Right? Don't start any marketing if you don't know what your persona is. If you don't know their pain, 80% of your customers, the common thread of them, if you don't know the pain points, objections, or deep desires, and you don't know how to answer any of those, like if you don't know how to answer those pain points or answer those objections, or like have some sort of relation to their desires and how you meet that, how you match that desire, how your service fulfills that need. If you don't know that stuff, then why are you marketing? Like most people, like they think that they're going to do brand awareness at the beginning, when really that's later stage in a business cycle. A business cycle like Coca-Cola does not do direct response. They do not like sell, get this Coke for like 2 for 1, and they send you like an envelope in the mail, and they have salesmen coming to your door. Like they don't do that. They focus on brand awareness. Like a lot of big companies like Starbucks and all that, they create brand awareness. But they can. Like they're at a stage where they're entitled to do that, and it works really, really well. And it's going more into the mind, creating that image of the brand in the mind and how people perceive that through brand lift. Like when you think of coffee, what do you think about? And someone might say Starbucks. Someone might say whatever. And same with like cars or soft drink. What brand do you think about? And you're like, probably like Coke or Sunkist, even though they're owned by the same people. And it's kind of, you've got to think about that later on, but at the beginning when you need cash flow coming through the door, think about your persona. who are they? Think about the channels that they kind of like live on. Like, it makes no sense to like, if you're selling to lawyers, you've got some sort of service for lawyers. Why are you advertising on Instagram? Go to LinkedIn. Go to their email or LinkedIn. Go to a place where they're living, where they frequently visit or go for their communication channels, and do that. Why are you doing all this other stuff? Like, it makes no sense. I do a lot of omni-channel because a lot of my clients, like, although I post twice a week on Instagram, I don't expect any sales from Instagram. I'm just building up a passive audience, and I expect that to last several years. Like, I don't expect any results from my Instagram. And how I treat it is try to do, if you can, if you've got the time, try to automate your omni-channel marketing, which what that means is it's basically you're trying to do marketing on several different platforms at the same time. So you might have a social media scheduling automation tool where you can, like for me, I schedule, I spend a day and I schedule 3 months in advance, and the posts are just automatically happening across my channels where I know my audience are. So my audience are on Instagram, but they don't really buy from there. I get a lot of leads through LinkedIn, and I post on LinkedIn. I post on Twitter, and Twitter is very popular in America, and I've got a lot of American clients. And so I post on these three automatically. I'm fortunate enough never to have to do Google Ads for my own business. Even though I sell it and I do it for clients, I've never had to do it because I'm good at SEO. So about 70% of my clients come from SEO, but I started my SEO knowing I wasn't going to make any leads or money at the beginning from my SEO efforts for at least 8 months. And that turned out to be it. It became a snowball effect after 8 months, about 8 months. And I started to get passive leads coming through the website because I was learning SEO. I was doing that passively. I was doing all these things passively. I started getting people noticing me. I set the expectation with myself that, hey, even though I'm doing these, don't expect that you're going to get leads through those. Don't expect that you're going to get leads through LinkedIn. I never expected to get any leads through LinkedIn. I just created relationships with people. And then I've got people saying, oh, do you offer this? Do you offer that? And I'm like, yeah, of course. And then they're like, oh, let's have a meeting. And then I make sales through there, and I didn't even expect that. So I would say if you've got no experience whatsoever, the two things is your persona. Like, think about that, like the majority of your clients and the common thread, the common theme. And then think about omni-channel marketing with where your audience are, and then try to do some omni-channel marketing, try to set some automation. But for the passive side of it, like, I went to where my audience are. I went, like, for me, I went to Upwork at the beginning, and I submitted probably 40 or 50 proposals before I had someone give me a chance, which is kind of normal. You set the expectation that you're not going to get a job at the beginning. And then the snowball effect happened. I over-delivered. I had 5-star reviews coming through. It's all about trust and perception. I had to create that trust, had to create that perception of trust on my website. And then that I was established and I could be trustworthy with your money, because I'm basically a money manager. I manage people's money for them, trying to get them a return on investment. And it makes way more than the stock market does. I make a freaking killing with the money that I manage, comparison to if you were to put that money into the stock market or into, let's say, real estate. If you're putting the same money into real estate and you didn't do market, you could have made like 20x more on your marketing and building your business up than if you were to buy $1 million home, paying that off over time, trying to get the residual income coming through, depending on your strategy, because there's a lot of strategies with real estate, but let's make it basic. If you put more money into business, you can get way more returns. And I believe that wholeheartedly. I know that I'm going to be investing in a lot of real estate as well, but that's kind of like the mindset of omni-channel. I'm just doing many things, trying to get many sources of revenue coming through, and not trying to feel like, oh, I'm only going to post on Instagram organically, which means that you're not running ads. I'm only going to do that, and I'm going to expect some sales coming through. It's not realistic. You've got to do many things at the same time. You don't know what's going to work in your marketing. Like, I'm still surprised oftentimes when I'm working on a Google Ads account and I'll try something, and when I know that it works with like several other clients and it doesn't work with this client, I'm like, wow, I'm shocked. Like, that's why you try so many things. It's split testing, it's trial and error. And when you start to realize that in marketing, you start to realize that's the same in business. That's the same in sales. It's a numbers game. It's trying different things, going with it, but try to like pull back your expectations in thinking that it's going to work first try or it's going to be a home run. Like, no. And so that's why we come back to that pressure. Try to take the pressure off yourself. Give yourself the leniency of allowing yourself to try many things consistently, though. Don't just try it like for 2 weeks and then give up. Try it for months. Like, I'm talking 6, 12 months. Try it for that long. And then you'll start to see results. Because if you just give up on the 4th month, you could have found out that the 5th month actually brought in all your revenue and you start to get a lot of clients. And we find that with our ads a lot of the time as well. With our ads, the first 2 months is like data collection, right? But a lot of people running their Google ads at the beginning, they think that they're going to get a direct return on investment in the first 2 weeks, which is not the case at all. And so it's really expectation.
So that's the advice for someone that can't afford to do to hire someone like you, for example, to do marketing. Now let's go to someone that it's ready to buy. It's ready to start investing into an agency or someone like you to start doing some marketing for their business. How do you find the right person or the right agency? Because for speaking from my own experience at the moment, is that there's a bunch of ads that I'm coming across that they're all claim will help your video business make $20,000 a month, guaranteed. Like,
so sleazy.
You just have to pay us $5,000 and we will help you. You know, and it keeps happening.
It's
Everyone's
so
claiming that they're the best of it, that they're experts, that they will get you results guaranteed, $10,000 a month guarantee for your video business and all this stuff. How do you do it? Because and then you even look for some of those people. They don't even show you that they have done it for themselves. Like, they have a successful video production business and all this stuff. So how do you find the right people? How do you navigate all the bullshit that is right now online?
Well, I'm a consultant, so I would recommend seeing a consultant first and maybe forking out like $100, have a half hour consult, and then list all the questions you have. Obviously, visit that consultant's website, read up on how trustworthy they seem to be and the results that they've produced, that they seem to know what they're talking about. Not this fly-by-night consultant that took a little guru course for $500 and then starts to call themselves an expert. You don't want to find those people. You want to find people who seem to be proven, have skin in the game, right? They're using their name, they're using their face in places, and they seem to have results, and they work with a lot of clients, right? So you do need to test how proven they are, and then just book in a consult with them, pay for it. Like, if it costs money, pay for it, because you'll find that the investment that you made then for a few $100 could have saved you thousands down the line. Because what happens is, if you go to an agency straight away, especially one, like I've seen even established agencies who have like $1 billion on their record of sales, and still they don't have home runs, right? You would think that you would go to them. They're proven, they're even famous, and you go to them and you're spending some of them have minimum retainers of 25 grand, right? And then the top cream of the crop, right? And I've seen campaigns flop still, even with them. Not every one of them is a home run. And so see a consultant first. The consultant should be able to tell you what are the best, they'll probably organize an audit. Like my audits, I charge them. I don't do free work. If they offer free work, that's fine. See what they come up with. But yeah, they should be able to tell you holistically and no bias what are channels that are going to work for their business, depending on their niche, like what's working really well for your niche, and then try to look at the top guys in the game. What are they doing? The consultant should have some premium tools so they can uncover these things like SEMrush or Hrefs, or looking at the actual crunching the numbers, looking at Google Keyword Planner, looking at what the search volume and market validation is. And then that consultant will be able to come back to you and say, okay, we believe that these are the things that are going to work for your business specifically. Don't worry about Instagram. Don't worry about TikTok. Get those out of your head right now. Focus on just one channel right now. Let's try to get this to work. Now, that obviously contradicts the whole omni-channel discussion with do many things at once. When you're actually ready to invest a lot of money, you should be focusing on one thing, right? When I talk about omni-channel, I think organically, not when you're spending lots of money. Like, I'm not saying that you should spend money in Instagram, spend money in Twitter, spend money in TikTok. I'm not saying that. I'm saying run posts automatically. It's free, right? Once you just have the tools, like the scheduling tools, posting is free. You just come up with the content. It's time. But when you've got money to have skin in the game and you want to invest, stick with at least one channel to begin with, and just pick a channel. My recommendation, if you think about it, I use the tofu, mofu, and bofu funnel strategy. So what that means is at the top of funnel, which is tofu, that is usually people who aren't really problem aware. They're not really ready to know that they've got a problem related to your service. They don't know they've got a problem. And slowly down the funnel, you've got mofu, which is middle of funnel, which is they're starting to figure out that they've got the problem. They're looking at kind of like solutions, like best providers out there and best ways to fix this problem. And then the bofu is bottom of funnel. They're ready to buy. They're like, videography services near me or whatever. Like, they're looking for the actual service, and there's a high likelihood that they're actually ready to buy right now, right? And so really you want to focus, if you're cash flow poor and you want to look at results straight away, you obviously focus on the bottom of funnel and people ready to buy. And you can do that on Facebook. So on the Meta network, when you're advertising on Instagram and Facebook, you can advertise on there, but you have to have a really killer offer. You got to have a really great offer to entice someone, because you're interrupting them while they're scrolling through their feed, and that's interruption marketing. And so it's very hit and miss. Interruption marketing in Facebook has worked, and it works all the time. Like, people spend lots of money on Facebook. But if you're just starting out, like, I'm a little bit biased towards Google, because you can use the Google network to be like, okay, I want to only enter into auctions where someone is typing in videography services near me, and I want that exact phrase. I don't want to bid on anything else. I just want, when someone types that in Google in the Gold Coast, I want to show up. And I know that it costs me $10 to $20 a click, and I know it's going to take some time, but like, maybe if I get 50 clicks, it may cost me $5,000, but I know that like I could make 50 grand out of this or something like that, So it's really just weighing up all your options, look at your opportunity cost. If you spend all your time in this, what are you sacrificing? So I really guide people into what is the low-hanging fruits that they can go for straight away. When you're ready to invest in the game, let's get some money. Let's prove to you that this actually works. But at the beginning, obviously, you're going to spend money. Not every investment is a home run, even with the best of companies that you go with, right? But at the same time, make sure that we're going for those bottom of funnel keywords. Make sure we've got this strategy. Like, I've had clients in the past where they think that they have this really great landing page that they're going to send traffic to, and that landing page is actually dog shit, and it won't convert anyone, just from my experience, right? They don't have social proof. They don't have reviews. They don't have compelling statements on there that relate to my problem. Like, they haven't really understood their persona properly, and they haven't mentioned any of those objections that that person would typically have. Like, if I'm hiring you for videography services, and I'm like, oh, how much time do you actually spend on it? What does the quality look like? What's the price? Like, all the typical objections that someone says. Obviously, some of them you're like, get out of here. Like, if they're saying, how long do you take on it? It's like, you're not hiring me for how long it takes. You're hiring me for the quality and the work. But anyway, like, you have a list of those objections, you have them on the landing page you're selling to people, have it compelling enough, and then send traffic to it. You're basically just trying to find quality traffic who are searching for particular keywords, only bidding for those and sending them to a landing page. There is no guarantee. If someone guarantees you, then it's either they're frauds or they've been in the game for a long time. I only trust a guarantee when it's coming from like the top agency that's really, really well known and generating a lot of good results. I trust guarantees from that. But when you got guarantees coming from someone and it looks a bit sleazy, then I'd probably run and go somewhere else. Like, I don't offer guarantees. I used to, like, I played around with guarantees in the past, and Sabri Subi and other people like that, they say you've got to have a guarantee. Dan Kennedy, I think he says that you've got to have a guarantee. I think guarantees are very powerful. And I think you've got to put your money where your mouth is and have a guarantee at some point, when you're proven, or you can deliver or whatever, or you're willing to not deliver, and then having to have the consequences of giving the money back. So there are many ways, and there's probably a strategy behind that. If you wanted to, obviously enter a competitive market, maybe you have to offer guarantees. But in my experience, when you're looking at big marketing, like 8-figure, 9-figure marketing for businesses, that there's no guarantees. What you think was going to work for this client actually did not work at all. And you start to realize, holy crap, it's all about split testing. Like everything you do in marketing is split testing. You're like, let's just see if this works. And that goes back to like Claude Hopkins and David Ogilvy and people like that. Like they knew that you had to split test those direct mail. They knew that they had to probably swap out this headline and change it for another one, or change an image. It's all about split testing to find out what's going to work, because you don't know what's going to work straight away. So yeah, that's... I hope that was succinct. I know it probably didn't sound like it, but I feel like you just have to invest in one channel. Make sure that you are going for the bottom of funnel in terms of intent, and strategize the landing page first. Don't go in trying to spend 10 grand on this shitty landing page that, if you think critically and think like, if you didn't own that landing page, think critically and think, would you buy from it? Would you, if you read through it, would you actually like convert? Was that compelling enough for you to want to sign up and contact this person? If it's not, then revisit it and upgrade it, change it. It's as simple as that. There's no like other way around it. There's no silver bullet. There's no quick course that you're going to take that's going to like unlock these skills that like it's going to make you infinite money. Like
expert marketing in 24 hours.
Level 100 straight away.
Straight away. Do the jump. Speaking about guarantees and offer, how do we make a killer offer?
This is something that I'm still learning about with value stacking and making sure that, and it starts with the persona, right? Alex Hormozi, if you've read his one of his books, that he's
$100 million
offers.
I'm finishing up.
Yeah, I've read it ages ago, but I've obviously got to read it again. But he talks about value stacking as well, and it is problem solution driven with the benefits as well. And it's really just how he teaches it and how Russell Brunson teaches it is that you just come up with all the things that you offer or could offer to that target persona, the ideal person that you're going to be delivering this to. What are all the benefits that they're going to get out of it? How can you create even more value where it's like stupid if they said no? Like you look like an idiot if you turn down this offer, and really that's what you want to go for, I suppose. I haven't experimented with a lot of irresistible offers in my business because I've got all sorts of different clients. Even though it works, it definitely works, especially for courses, especially with products. Those offers are amazing. They work really, really well. And those are the offers that work on Facebook and work on Instagram when you're advertising. Those are the compelling offers that really drive someone to buy something. Whereas Google Ads, obviously, it's trying to get this like enterprise in the search results, or it's trying to get this like local mechanic showing up on Google, because if you're found, then you're going to sell. But yeah, I know about the value stacking. I'm probably not the best person to speak about value stacking in terms of coming up with irresistible offer, but it's once you get your head around it, the concept is quite simple. It's learning about your target audience. What are their pain points, objections, desires? What is your product? What is it helping with? Like thinking about when someone, like I think I got this from Alex Hormozi, he said something like, if someone comes into the gym, in order to sell them, you're not going to basically tell them it's going to be very hard work, and you're not going to tell them that they go in here 7 days a week and they've got to spend like an hour and it's going to be excruciating, and they're not going to take up your sale. It's kind of like you've got to give them a shit sandwich in terms of, was that the right word? Anyway, you've got to give them something in baby steps. You got to be like, well, you're going to come in here for at least twice a week to begin with, or once a day, but you're only going to do 10 minutes of exercise, and we're just going to do this, work up to this for the first week or 2 weeks, and then we'll increase it to 12 minutes, and then 14 minutes the next week. And so like you're doing it baby steps, you're rewarding them. You're saying that, hey, you can still eat your cakes and you can still eat your croissants if you want. Obviously less of it, but like you're not going to give them cold turkey straight away. You're not, otherwise no one's going to buy from you. And it's kind of like Like I've had a lot of clients and they get in the sales call and they're wondering why they're flopping on sales calls. Is because they're putting people off with the amount of hard work that they're telling the client that they have to do, that they're telling their client that they have to do to get on their program or something like that. And no one wants to do hard work. We're lazy. We always want the lazy Susan way. Like we always want to make sure that there is a silver bullet, and that's why courses always sell when they say we're going to 20x your sales or whatever if you take this course. And unfortunately, deep down, every one of us wants something cheap, like quick and a quick fix and a silver bullet or a guarantee. We love that, and deep down, we still think that works, and we still think there's something out there that it does work and it's guaranteed and it's what no one else knows about yet. And
Alex Hormozzi talks about the value equation,
which at the
you
end
have
of the book,
the dream outcome, and if you can imagine an equation, you have on top like the dream outcome
Times.
the likeliness of achieving that dream outcome, and then on the bottom side of the equation you have time and then pain. So basically what you want to do in order to increase the value of your offer and your services is making sure that the prospect of that client or the customer understands what's the destination. You don't want to sell the flight to get to Hawaii. You want to sell Hawaii. You want to sell the beach. You want to sell that experience, and then you want to make it create the perspective, the perception that that's very likely for you to happen, because then you'll be excited to buy. Because if I tell you, here's a six-pack and you're 200 kilos, you know, like you're like, how likely is it for me to get that six-pack? You know, you have to make them understand that it is likable depending on who's the client and what's the context and what's the service itself. But then also you have to reduce the pain points. You know, how difficult is it going to be for you to get that six-pack? Because as you were saying, like you don't want pain. We always we're trying consistently to avoid pain. So the less painful you make and the quicker you make it as well. So if you reduce the time for them to get that dream outcome, that increase the value of your proposition and your offer. So that's the lens that I look at everything now from my business. You know, like I think of like, what's the dream outcome of my client? How likely is it that we can make that dream become a reality? How do I increase the pain and how do I decrease the pain and time to get to that dream outcome? And that's how you can start charging as well for value, because anyone will pay for something that is quick, that is less painful, that is exactly what you're dreaming of, and that you feel that you can trust that they will get the results that you're seeking.
Yeah, I think it's like in my business where you have to create some sort of quick win for the client for them to trust you, because you already know that your system works or whatever, but you know it takes a long time, right? You might feel like SEO, for example, it's like harder than selling insurance, simply because it's a long-term game. Everyone wants quick wins. Everyone says, oh, I want to get on the first rankings on Google and stuff. And so with SEO, for example, you tell the client with the expectation that, hey, it's going to probably take several months. And normally they won't want to come on with you because no one wants to hear that. They want to be like, oh, I want to show up next week on the first page. But what you can do instead is, you know that your system works. You know that it works, but over a long period of time. So you think about the ways that, okay, what is a quick win that I can get them? Like maybe it's a certain keyword that you found in their market and you're like, oh shit, if I actually created a really great page around this or a blog article, I could actually rank within 4 weeks. And we could tell the client that, and we can show the client, hey, look at your rankings. They're going up slowly, but they're going up. And so it's really about that communication. And not with the mentality of setting and forgetting things, because a lot of us want to get lazy. It's like people lazy with outreach. They create these templates and they just flick them off. There's no personalization in the degree that other than the person uses the first name and then the email, there's no extra personalization. And so it's a matter of thinking about your service, knowing what the client wants, and then how do you create some sort of quick win where it's probably the fact that For my clients, for example, we might start with a consult first. It'll be a paid consult. We have a talk about it. They've invested money, so they're going to pay attention. Because usually if it's free, they don't really, value you. So we have that consult. It's 30 minutes. It's $100. We're building that trust, and then we might move to an audit. And then once we do the audit, that gives me a chance to, I'm not going to charge them 10 grand straight away and they're not going to see the results. Instead, we're starting in small increments. It's low pain because the money is less and they're getting something relatively quickly. I'm going to get this audit done on the same day. You're going to get it back by the end of the day. And it's something where they feel like there's a little bit of, it's not instant gratification, but you're at least moving them closer to where they want to go. They're building that trust with you because that's the biggest thing. People have the money. People have a lot of money, but they want a reason to spend it with you, right? And you've got to build that trust with them. It's kind of like Silicon Valley investors. They just want a reason to spend money. But if you're just going to tell them, give me money, and this is what you're going to get, no one's going to, you need to obviously...
They will be like, why would I?
Yeah, you got to give them the reason. You got to give them, this is what you'll make. This is what you'll do in the first 2 months or 6 months, or whatever. So you've got to really communicate with your client regularly. And it's all about that communication and trying to get that quick win straight away. Because I feel like a lot of people, when they're starting out with their service, especially if it's a service like fitness or it's a service like, I can't think of an example, but anything that's remotely long-term in the delivery and long-term in the delivery of the outcome, then it's very hard to sell that outcome and the time it takes because that's the pain. So you've got to break your service down into little delivery pieces first in order for that client to actually want to stay with you long term. And that's how we've kept clients on for more than 12 months because we've broke down things in increments.
The process, yeah.
Broke down the process, but it's also, okay, what's the first quick win we can get so that they can feel like there's no buyer's remorse. We've eliminated the buyer's remorse because we've delivered that. They'll have a little bit of buyer's remorse. They'll be like, oh, fuck, I hope this works. I spent 10 grand. I hope this is going to work. But so that's why you've got to try to quickly alleviate that with some sort of quick win that you can find that's close to their outcome. Like, oh, I can really trust these people. They have my best intentions. So yeah, that's something to look into when you're thinking about that. And I think Alex Hormozi talks about that as well. You think of the quick steps. Yeah, there's that relates to every business type. Every single business. If you're not doing that and the delivery is long term, then you're gonna have some problems with your sales. And that reminds me with the value equation. There was someone. Briggs, I think. There was someone I read somewhere, and he come up with the equation of the pain versus outcome and the time it takes to get it. And similar to Hormozi, I think Hormozi came up with a hybrid of that, where it's the what is the outcome, how painful is it to reach that outcome, and how long does it take me? What's thinking about what's my investment, how long is it going to take me? And then they work out in and of themselves, how willing are they to go for that if they think the outcome outweighs the pain. So, obviously, if you're thinking about, well, I'm probably going to make $1 million this year, but I have to invest 100 grand. And I know that it's unreasonable for me to think that, there's any other way to get this outcome. And it's if I can't spend this 100 grand to get this $1 million, then it's kind of like your expectations in and of yourself, you're not setting them correctly. And it's, I don't know where I was going with that, but I just want to introduce the pain to the outcome, to the time. There's an actual formula based on that as well. Yeah. I can't reference it. I completely, it's gone out of my head right now. So,
we're pretty much, we've been talking for an hour and a half. Wow. This is awesome because honestly, there's so much little nuggets that you have dropped throughout this conversation that I feel could help a lot to entrepreneurs and small business owners or people that didn't even think of delving into marketing, because myself, like I realized like I can't live from referrals. Like even though this year, for example, has been incredible, I've had so many referrals and word of mouth working for us. Like we can't predict, which is what you explained, and that at some point you will need to start implementing different tools for it.
Eventually, you will. Like
you'll have to, yes.
Yeah.
So in order to get to the next stage.
Well, in order to sell the business.
Yeah.
You like, if you want to sell your business long term, if it was apart from you and your goal was to eventually have 100 employees and sell the business, if you're running only on referrals, it makes it very hard to sell that business. An investor comes in and like, okay, what's your CAC, what's your CPL, and they're like, we haven't really figured that out. It's all referrals. But it's like, well, I'm not going to buy your business. It's not real predictable, is it?
Yeah.
Like, even though you know that you're getting referrals like 5 times a week, that, depending on the investor, they'll look at that and they'll be like, well, the numbers don't make sense here. You don't even have any marketing in place, any predictable marketing. But some niches work that way. Some, like NDIS, you can run a successful NDIS business without marketing in terms of digital marketing. You can still, depending on the area, and it's all variable, right? Depending on the area and all that sort of stuff, you can run a business purely on referrals, but you have to be really good, right? And an industry where you're based on referrals, healthcare, it's like run on referrals, whereas a lot of other businesses are not. Like they don't have a built-in referral system where the actual consumer expects there to be a referral system in place.
Before closing, I just want to get your thoughts on something and ask you one more question. What are your thoughts on the people that live from the premise, I want to become so good at what I do that everyone comes to me? And they're not doing marketing or anything like that. They just want to be so good at the specific thing they do and hope that everyone will come to them. What would you tell someone that is thinking like that?
What do they like aside from that? What's the goal of becoming good?
If they want to be financially free with their business.
Yeah, sure. So if you want to be like the best in videography, right, and you want to be really well known for it, you do have to be visible. Otherwise, no one's going to know you. And so you can work on your craft. You can work on serving clients. But what I would do if you want to be a thought leader, you don't have to be the best in the game. To be a thought leader, start a blog, put your name on it, put your face on it, be willing to have skin in the game in that area. And so when you can build your omni-channel going, you've got your blog articles going as well, you've got some sort of strategy to get visible, and perhaps you're on social media doing reels and things, eventually that'll snowball over time. You'll start to build an audience. You'll start to become well known. And yeah, so like I get a lot of referrals as well, but referrals are cherry on top for me. Like I don't really care about referrals just because like I know it's going to snowball over time. Like I have to turn down so many jobs at the moment just because I'm in like growth pains of scaling the business, like, hiring several people at once, trying to, hire and fire, trying to find really good talent. So I'm going through that phase at the moment, but I have to turn down like 20 jobs a week. And these are high paying jobs, but I have to regretfully like, oh no, like I'm going to have to turn down this money, but I have to, right? And I've learned to love the process. I've learned to understand that it's okay to lose money in that sense because I'm doing other stuff that I love. I'm building my blog and my SEO strategy. But yeah, if you want to be the best at what you do, obviously you've got to learn your craft and constantly upskill like an obsession. It's got to be an obsession. You've got to be better than other people at it. And you've got to really be every day, like get that 1% better. Try to really live and breathe it. Like there's nothing really that you don't know about that someone else can't tell you about. And so that's really what it is. It's constantly upskilling. Like I dedicate 1 day a week to upskilling. And that's just something like I learn throughout the week, but I dedicate an actual day to upskilling just because I know how important it is. And most times I've found that 1 day a week, what I learned on that particular day helped me days later with a client answering in a sales call. And I wouldn't have known that if I didn't do an upskill day. And so that's a very important, but it's also building your brand. It's about perception. It's about visibility. We know that you don't have to be the best in the game to be famous. Literally, you don't need to be the best in the game.
That's a hard truth, yeah.
Yeah. So it's literally about your marketing and your perception and being there, being out there, looking like a thought leader in terms of, thought leaders very like, like ambiguous. Like a lot of people are like, what the fuck is a thought leader? But like a thought leader really in this instance, it's writing about articles or topics or things or frequently asked questions that people always ask in this industry. It's going to be asked all the time. And you're just writing a really helpful article around that to help people. You're doing a really helpful video on YouTube answering this particular thread of this question. You're really helping people, right? And over time, like I think Hormozy, he says that he did his blog for 5 years before it really got anywhere, before it saw the exponential traction. And so you've got to come in the mindset, it's okay to do that. It's okay to do those videos for a long time, expecting you can get 0 views at the beginning, but like just build and learn. It's that MVP, that minimal viable product. Start somewhere, get better, evolve. Same with your website. Don't get your website perfect. Come up with one page, launch it. My website has probably had like over 700 iterations. I'm not even kidding. In 2 years, I've probably upgraded it that many times. And that is just constantly like learning about something in marketing, be like, oh, I'm going to try that. I'm going to split test. I'm going to, and it's okay to do that, So yeah, that's my advice. Definitely work on your blog or YouTube or both. That's huge, right? In this day and age, if you don't have a blog or you don't have a YouTube channel and you can really express the kind of frequently asked questions in your industry, if you're not doing that, you're not going to ever look like a thought leader. You're not going to be someone who people look up to and be like, that guy's an expert. He knows what he's doing. Like, it's all good and fine to have a portfolio. Portfolios are awesome. But if you're not really like writing about it and you don't have a YouTube channel and stuff, you're not going to be famous. Maybe in inner circles with your portfolio and it's all word of mouth and you're doing really amazing work. Maybe you'll become famous, but if you're not doing any guest posting on like Forbes and other websites like that, if you're not doing that over time or working up to it and trying to build something like one brick at a time, then you'll never get to that stage where everyone's like, oh, I know him. Yeah, he's like the best in the industry. He's a Neil Patel. Like in our industry, we've got Neil Patel or Brian Dean, and these people are really famous in our industry. And sure, they're probably not even the best in the industry. They're just really great at putting themselves out there and writing about a topic from the perspective of being an expert.
Exactly, and you completely nailed it with it. So, like, it's not really about being the best, unfortunately. It's about making people think that you're the best, like creating that perception that you're an expert in your field.
Unfortunately, it's fake it till you make it. Like, when you're starting out, it is fake it till you make it. You have to try, like any clients that you get on, maybe you have to work for free to begin with and then use the client logos on your website as social proof, just to create anything, right? Just use anything you can, any affiliations you have with the brand or software that you use, or cameras, like we use, what do you call it? It's a Nikon or something?
Oh, please don't say that. that broke my heart. It's a Nikon. No, please never say that again. These are Sony's, mate.
Sony.
You do not compare my Sony cameras to Nikon. Please do not do that. Oh my God. We compare Nikons to potatoes. That's how bad it is. So please, do not do that. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. And if you're a Nikon user, I'm sorry. It's just the truth. Your camera's a potato. There's even a creator that made a song about it.
Even if you use potatoes, use them as your affiliate.
Oh my God, that really hurt my feelings. You couldn't go like Canon or something like that. You had to go for Nick.
I thought of Canon, I thought of C in my head, like CA. I know the brand. It starts with C, and I'm like, the only closest thing is Nikon in my head.
Oh no, how terrible.
That's the brand association.
We're cutting the podcast. I'm sorry. That conversation is over. No, but really, mate, like I want to close it because this has been such a great conversation. I just want to ask yourself, what would you tell your young self when you're first starting up with your business, being an entrepreneur and all these things? If you could go back and give maybe 1 or 2 pieces of advice, what would you tell yourself, or even to someone that is, young or even old, but getting after it, starting that passion project? They want to be an entrepreneur. They want to get out of the 9 to 5. What would you tell that person? I
would say be comfortable that the first couple of years are learning. and be okay to be a generalist at the beginning. Be okay to learn many different things, and be okay to do that for like a year. Like, it's a time game, it's a volume game, right? And then eventually over time you naturally specialize. And I wish that I kind of knew that that was the path I was going to go. I learned through a lot of trial and error, thinking that I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to be an expert at this. But when really you've got to allow yourself and give yourself permission to learn a lot of things at the beginning, learn a lot about your industry, and be okay that you're probably not going to make money at the beginning. Be okay with that, right? Not that that's going to be the case. I've seen so many success stories. And then eventually specialize, right? And I would tell myself, like, just be your expectations within of yourself, because it's a mental game and you can get depressed. And just like, don't let that overcome you. Just try to realize long game that, hey, you're going to do this until you die. Like, you love this particular profession, you love it, and you're not going to do anything else for the rest of your life. You're going to do this with knowing that. Be okay to be patient and love the process, right? Because I know that I'm going to be in marketing for the rest of my life, and that's why I'm investing myself in myself slowly, my education. I'm okay to spend several grand on a course and stuff, because I invest in myself knowing that I'm going to turn that into value for my business. Yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, awesome. Brother, if someone wants to get in touch with you or want to inquire about your services, where can they reach out to you?
Yeah, so if you just typed in JRR, like R for Roche, JRR Marketing, and then you'll find me online anywhere. I'll show up. So, yeah.
Yeah, awesome. The links will be below depending on where you're watching or listening to this. Such a pleasure to have this conversation with you before you start your new adventure in Indonesia, which we didn't even get the time to talk about. But make sure to like and subscribe depending on the platform that you are, and follow us on Instagram. Good vibes for everyone.